Welcome you to our 14th webinar about asset integrity management. My name is Marcel Sminia. I'm a co-founder and I will be facilitating today. In this webinar, we're going to look ahead and discuss what's new in asset management and in IMS for 2024. So let me introduce our guests of today. We have invited two industry experts who will discuss these insights. It's Justin Naik and Luiz Curado. Justin has joined Synosco to lead the product team after over 20 years of experience in delivering software products for the engineering and asset-intensive industries. And Luiz is an engineer with a postgraduate degree and an MBA in safety. With over 18 years of international experience in inspection and integrity, he's currently a solution engineer, manager, and trainer at Synosco. So before we start, let me just outline the framework of our discussion. We will start by looking at the market trends, and then we will continue by looking at what this means for Synosco in terms of platform and functional changes. And at the end, we will have some time to answer questions, and we have already received a few up front. But please feel free to put any questions that you have in the chat. Also, please note that if for any reason you experience a bad connection on your side, a refresh of your browser will bring you back into the webinar. So that's all for housekeeping. Let's get started. Hi, Justin. How are you today?
Hi, Marcel. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, doing great here at one of our software development centers, as you can see.
Good to have you on the team. And hi, Luiz. Good to see you again. How are you? You're muted, Luiz, I think. I don't know if people can hear Luiz, but we cannot hear you, Luiz.
No.
Maybe you can look at what is going on with your mic, Luiz, and then we'll kick it off. So let us start by looking at the market trends. Everyone is talking about AI. Justin, can you start us off on the artificial intelligence topic?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Marcel. I think you know as well as I do, everyone's talking about AI at the moment. And for us at Synosco, it's really no difference. So I've got actually a quite nice story that I think you know a little bit about. We're working with some of the very smart guys at University of Pula, and we're going to build out a few innovative use cases with AI. So the idea is that my team have come up with a bunch of ideas, and that ranges from, say, leak prediction over to proposing schedules and tasks based on some data within IMS, or even, for example, using your voice to actually build a report, the Hello Alexa story. So our plan is really to do a lot of brainstorming about those ideas, and we're going to let those guys do the prototypes with us in IMS. And then we're going to come to you and say, right, let's choose some of the best ones and we'll take them to the market. We'll do POCs and we'll find some customers that are interested in it.
Okay, sounds exciting, Justin. Staying with the AI topic, Luiz, can you tell us a bit more about OpenAI Energy Initiative, if your mic is already working? Oh, I don't think so. We cannot hear you, Luiz, so maybe you can go out and go in again. And then, Justin, maybe we can park this question to Luiz. Sure. And I would like to ask you about integration. Everybody seems to be looking into integrations. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Okay, yeah. Actually, it's one of the questions that came from the people that are pre-registered for the webinar, I think. So, like I said, I've been in this domain for a couple of decades, a bit like yourself. And asset integrity is really all about APIs, just like all these other groups. And you know, I came from maintenance and operations for 10 years in oil and gas, and it was all about API first. That's really what they were asking for. Now, if you think about it, for years, Synosco anyway has been integrated with the SAPs and other maintenance management systems that are on the market. And every year they converge or join Infor and Oracle, and you know all about that. So what we wanted to do was to make it more modular and configurable. The idea is that whenever a new customer comes along with a new maintenance system or something we haven't heard of before, that we're really open to getting into those new streams. I hope that makes sense. And we're also hearing a lot of other requests around APIs. So some of our customers, a lot of our customers, especially the big ones, have got their own data lakes. The big oil and gas companies are spending millions on this topic. And what they want to do is they want to pull data into the data lakes, and then they use all of the data from their ecosystem to come up with a bigger picture of what's happening. So rather than just IMS reporting or SAP reporting, it's about the whole big picture. Now, we've already been feeding data lakes in one way or another for years, but we're going to keep investing there. And that's about making sure it's reliable. So if an output to a data lake fails, that we can restart it, we can find where the faults are, but also we can enrich the information, if you like, so it can self-describe what it's doing. Because you can throw the data over, but if our customer doesn't understand what it means, it's no point. So we're going to keep investing in that area. And maybe one last thing I'll mention is I did a lot of work with intrinsically safe devices over the years, as you know, and I think that's a big thing for Synosco in our market. And a lot of our customers are asking for more push and pull type APIs. So they want to get around a specific use case that we don't 100% cover in our standard offering. And we've got something called dynamic forms. And with a dynamic form, you can open up a new use case or a new stream and a new device. So I don't have to worry if you've got a iPad or if you've got an iPhone or if you've got an eCom or a BCom device, you can just handle it yourself. And probably one of the last things we really need to think about is partnering there. So all of those integrations, they really depend on good quality partners to come and deliver it.
Clear. I want to get back to that on partnering.
Can you hear me?
A second, Luiz. Yeah, we can hear you right now. That's good. That's good. So let's head back to the partnering later on, Luiz. I wanted to ask you about your AI experience and the OpenAI Energy Initiative. So now we have you back in the call. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, that's the issue with the live sessions, right? You get a little glitch. But yeah, so on the OpenAI Energy Initiative that Synosco has joined, I think a couple of years ago already, where we deal with the use of AI into energy initiatives or the energy industry, if you wish. When it comes to our domain, we applied that artificial intelligence and machine learning initially to identify anomalies on equipment from that those images were captured by drones. So you would fly a drone over the asset. That drone would capture, thousands and millions of images. Those images going through an artificial intelligence that will recognize external defects and anomalies and classify them. Is it about corrosion? Is it about mechanical damage? Is it about insulation? We'll classify to a certain level of I wouldn't say risk, but classify that anomaly, and then that information would come back into IMS, so we can do the proper mapping with the 3D model, with the equipment. So then you kind of create an automated inspection process, where by just flying a drone, you would create inspection reports, identify anomalies, and create a follow-up action on that screening process. So that's a tool that it is mature today. So the the work process of capturing the images, identifying the issues, connecting those to a 3D model, and creating a follow-up action that is fully implemented already in IMS for the selected sites. The second initiative that we've been working on with the OpenAI Energy Initiative is by predicting corrosion rates for about 3 to 5 specific degradation mechanisms. Again, IMS is going to be the source of the data. Yeah, so we extract that wall history of wall thickness measurement, renewal thickness. That is, it goes into an AI machine that will correlate that with process conditions and will predict a corrosion rate that we can use later in IMS to play with the remnant life, plan inspection activities, update the RBI, and so on. So that's a bit of a background from the OpenAI Energy Initiative, Marcel.
Clear. So in your absence, we briefly talked about integrations with Justin already. Do you have any take on integrations? Because it sounds like a buzzword at the moment. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think we've been talking about a lot about integrations and interface, about the capability of a system to communicate and exchange data with another system. I think today I would say every proposal we make, we take into account integrations with a CMMS, for example, or a data historian as a minimum, right? So how are we going to take integrity data and make that available in a CMMS for further decision making, for budget planning, right? So for other actions from different teams. So the interfaces are very popular. We are deploying more and more technologies, more CMMS. For example, in the past was primarily SAP. These days we have interfaces with Maximo, with Infor EAM or Hexagon EAM, Hexagon SDX. So a number of different applications, and they will use even SAP now into S4HANA, very strong integration. So I think there's something, not more a buzzword, but the clear requirement from the industry.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, Justin just mentioned partnering and the partner ecosystem. They're definitely an emerging trend, I would say. Luiz, I know this is close to your heart as well. What is happening at Synosco in this regard?
Yeah, when you say the partner ecosystem is, it's, as you said, it's close to my heart. I remember me pitching the partners to the founders a few years ago. From that point, we grew a lot. We do have a partner director that has been looking into how we engage with those other companies that have a shared interest. So I think when you look at technology partner, we've been very close to Hexagon. We attended and we delivered a number of webinars together. We've attended events. So I think we develop a very close relationship with their team, and the products have been connecting correctly. So other partners include value-added resellers and system integrators in different countries. So we are getting more people involved. Another good example that I like to mention is is Max Grip. So Max Grip has been always work. It's also a Dutch company that grew around Shell, if you wish, and we've been working together in parallel for many years, and we are now working more together, where we deliver the software and the maintenance and support, and they will come and deliver the methodology implementation. So that's quite important to support that one IMS approach, where we're going to come up with the system, and the partners will help our users to implement and get the maximum out of the systems.
Clear. IMS is well known for its front end and embraced by engineers worldwide, but we are not standing still, right? So one IMS means even more investment in the latest and greatest tools. But before we talk about these tools, is it possible? It's possible not all our viewers are familiar with this one IMS concept. Can you maybe explain a little bit more what we mean when we say one IMS, Luiz?
Yeah, when we say one IMS, we are talking about how an integrity management system tackles the strategy of different disciplines, right? So we know that the pressure equipment have a strategy based on corrosion, based on RBI. Maintenance or rotating electrical and instrumentation have a strategy more based on the reliability and the availability of these assets. Safety instrumentation, there's a test interval, right? So how you build from a house up to the LOPA, creating a SIF, a SIL, and a test interval. The one IMS is how do you optimize your inspection, maintenance, and test strategies, taking into account the different disciplines or different methodologies. Because we have a boiler, you have to open the boiler. Why don't you go and test the functional systems of the safety systems or the connected equipment? So that's about breaking the silos, the discipline silos, and make them work together to a common goal of creating and really working with an optimized strategy for maintenance, inspection, test, and so on, right?
Here. So as I said, one IMS means even more investment in the latest and greatest tools. Justin, in what tools are Sonosco investing on the software platform?
But I'm the product guy, so I'll try and give a good explanation on behalf of my engineering colleagues. I think one of the key things that we're doing is we're a massive Microsoft partner. So we're a Microsoft DevOps partner. We really have invested hugely into that tooling. So we took the whole stack. So we've got Azure Git, we've got Azure pipelines, we make Azure images and web surfers. We use Microsoft SQL Server. We really are embracing the whole stack. And what that means is you get best of breed of that technology. And rather than having to worry about coping with this connectivity or that connectivity, all the Microsoft stuff works together, which is great. And we're making sure we're trying to use the latest and most valuable tech. So we just want to make sure that we are getting the most value for a customer, if you like. So that could be, for example, the latest version of SQL Server has different indexing, has different ways that it works. It really helps us. But also more front-end technology. And I think that's where the one IMS story comes in a bit. So using a lightweight JavaScript framework for the front end, and we're using React. It doesn't matter what it is, but it is React. But what that does is it gives you really superb user experience in terms of the quality of the components, but also the performance. So you get usability and you get performance. And more and more people are expecting to be able to use our products, not on a desktop or on a big screen like they always used to have, but also on smaller devices. So that gives us that responsive design, which means that it shrinks or grows according to the size of the device, and hides and shows things so the user has the best real estate.
Yeah. So that's the platform, but maybe on the functional end, let's move to some functional changes. Luiz, can you start us off on the mobility topic, for example?
Yeah, on the mobility, I think we have looked into how to make IMS mobile friendly. We look at multiple times. We have multiple trials, but always the intention was how to facilitate the life of the field worker, right? How to facilitate the life of an inspector into going into the field, collecting data as quick as possible in a most reliable way, and processing that data quick. In the past, we have multiple technologies, right? The responsive web design and the offline app through an app store. And I think today, the technology that we use today is adding more value. So it's I think probably Justin will talk a little bit about that. But now the technology allows the users to, in a very simple way, go into the field and just look at the list of tasks they have to do. I have to inspect that equipment, open a checklist, and very quick go through the relevant question. And then we're going to bring the what we call dynamic checklists, yeah, or dynamic forms, where it actually follow a decision tree. Say, did you find corrosion? Yes, and then it's going to bring a lot more questions into quantifying and qualifying that corrosion for that particular equipment. So facilitating that journey from the inspector into grabbing a mobile device like an iPad, going into the field without internet connection, filling a checklist, taking pictures, making annotations, looking at drawings, and then going back to the office and just kind of approve his inspection report. I think the technology is there. I can tell you that we tried multiple times. Some of them were good, some of them was less good. But I think today that piece of technology, the way we deliver it by simplifying IMS into a web application, really add business value, or give a very strong business benefits into standardization of the checklist, right? So whenever you say there's a corrosion at 5%, it's going to be always the same, right? So you're not going to describe that corrosion in a fancy way. It's a checklist, right? How you do that with the preventive maintenance, how you validate compliance, how you collect the structured data for data analytics, for example. So I think the tool itself is great, and it also comes with an e-learning, right? So we're also removing that burden of whatever change you need to make. You go to Senosco support, and then you try to engage and modify, and that might take time. Might need to get the additional budget to justify the hours. So now with the e-learning, we provide the users guidance on how to configure these checklists themselves and how they can manage that checklist, how they can manage more that work process. That was already simple. Now it's became much more efficient, and the academy will play a big role in that, in allowing the users to be more independent. But maybe Justin, you can elaborate a little bit more on the technology side. I think you always also have a great experience on that.
Absolutely. Actually, now I think about it, I've been working in that field for quite some years, and that I've been deploying mobile apps into oil and gas, including all of the same customers. So the familiarity is definitely there, and it's the same technology journey that you've just mentioned about building a specific app for a specific device and hoping it will work offline, etc., etc. And all of these companies, they start with the same process. So they've got a paper process, and it's not really enabling the end users and the field engineers to actually get value out of the product. So then they move to digitization, and from the digitization, they say, well, we can make digital printouts, and we take the printouts to the field, and then we go to, well, we've got the printouts in the field, why don't we replicate that in a native app? So we build a native app, and then this is where we land where we are, exactly what you described, task-based mobile apps that are specific to a particular task. So what we're using these days is PWAs, it's progressive web apps. And what that means is you can have a nice, truly offline mobile experience. And you don't have to have the hassle of the app stores. So we don't have to worry about the Googles and the Apples or getting through your company's mobile data management tools. It's literally a web app and anyone can get to it, but it still gives you offline. It still gives you that shortcut on the desktop. Still gives you that really nice mobile user experience in the right shape and the right fonts, etc. And the best thing about it, I think, is the fact of the deployment. So rather than every time you change your way of working or your business process, having to replicate that in a mobile app. The progressive web app is supposed to synchronize and take all of that information from you in this lovely lightweight JavaScript style, and then it pushes it to the end user. So I think that's a very, very nice way of bringing value to the customer very quickly.
So the future is now really for our customers to start using all of this, right? Because it's there.
And the answer is definitely maybe. So yeah, the technology's there. And that was a blocker, like Luiz and I've just been describing. It was a huge blocker. If the technology doesn't work, you can't get the business process to go. So what the real challenge now is moving from pen to paper to a truly digital model. And the challenge is actually now about the operating model and making a new target operating model that works with that tech. So if you think about it, the field operator in the old days, he just run out into the field and he was able to do his work. He could write anything he wanted down on his paper, carry out his tasks, his measurements, his observations. You bring that paper back to the office and he could interpret that and, you know, make a nice story or put it all together correctly. Fundamentally now with mobility, especially when you consider the offline scenario, and don't forget about how offline most of our customers tend to be. They really don't have connectivity. So they have to think about how they're going to work. So a good example might be a supervisor, and he's got a bunch of devices that there's a shared pool. He can assign the device to the person that's going to do the job. They need to choose the work they're going to do and synchronize it. So it's pre-planned work. Then they go out there, they go offline, and they do the tasks that they're thinking about. Obviously, your supervisor's now worried. He's got to pre-plan everything a bit more. It's very orchestrated kind of work. But what I've seen is a massive increase in hands-on tool time because the work is very orchestrated. You can just go out into the field and you've got that time of the day when you're doing all of your work. But on top of that, the data's right the first time. You can only put in a certain value. You can only get it in the right format. And you don't have that double entry, triple entry interpretation idea. So in the end, it's going to be a bit of a steep learning curve to begin with, but finally you'll get a lot of benefit.
Yeah. So IMS for field and the digital checklist can really move customers forward in terms of integrity management.
Yeah.
But this is not all we have been doing in terms of integrity management. Luiz, can you elaborate a bit on integrity operating windows and using historian data?
Yeah, so for the IOW, as we call it, and that is based on data historian, right? We look into barrier management. So, you know, for the users that have been following us, I've been talking a lot about barrier management, right? So where you have a system where you identify a threat, which is a degradation mechanism, you implement a barrier to avoid that degradation from happening. And then you have an indicator and see what is the status of that barrier. For example, you might have a degradation that will accelerate. You have a corrosion that will accelerate above a certain temperature. So you need to set up a system, an IOW as a barrier that will consume a data historian data and say whatever you exceed that temperature limit, you have to change the status of the barrier so the corrosion engineer can take an action and review an RBI. It's not a control room kind of a visualization or analysis, because it's not going to lead to an immediate corrosion or a loss of containment, but it will affect the corrosion rate in the long term, right? So the users would have to take an action on it, right?
Here. So let's move on to something else that receives a lot of attention. I heard you just saying it, Luiz. Visualization. Justin, are we doing something on that?
On visualization, yeah. So I think we've already mentioned this whole concept of responsive designs, right? So you know, you want it to look nice on the right device. You want it to have the right formatting, etc. So that's super key. And users don't want to see grids and grids of data anymore. They want it to be explained to to you all to be visual. And I see a picture just popped up. So we've been pretty strong in 3D, as you know. We've spent a lot of money on that over the last few years, but it doesn't satisfy all customers. I think it's great for assets with lots of floors or lots of height to it over a small surface area, but there's other customers out there that want a little bit more. We did a pilot with Esri ArcGIS, and that's a company I've been working with for a very, very long time. And it proved really successful. So I think for pipeline and subsea, that's something that we're going to really focus on. And if you think about some of my old customers, they really wanted to show on the map where the degradation was on a pipeline, exactly where an engineer had to go to do an assessment of the thickness of a pipe, etc. And you can't do that with 3D. So that's going to be huge. I think we'll probably look at that towards the last release of the year.
Clear. Okay, guys, it's time to conclude for today. I think the future is quite exciting in terms of what IMS will bring. Any last words from you on that, Justin?
Yeah, well, I'm the new guy, right? So I get to say the very corny things. So I'm going to say them. I'm kind of new to Synosco, but I'm not new to the domain. And I'm very, very passionate about engineering and engineering software. So I'm super, super happy to be here. And what I'm really looking for is this name behind me, Synosco, being super synonymous with a leading SaaS integrity, asset integrity software company. And that's what I want people to think when they hear that name, and the market to really start talking about us. And I'm sitting here talking with engineers, technical writers, POs, SMEs, and they all want happy customers, and they all want those customers to enjoy our products and to recommend them. And if that's our focus, I think we can't help but do the right thing. All else will follow.
Clear. So Luiz, any last words from you?
Always.
I was afraid you would say that.
It's paid by the word.
Yeah. And for me, when we look at the, let's wrap up and what is the future, what are future ready assets is. I like to look back and say when I joined Synosco about 5 years ago, the product was already mature. It was already a leading a company in that space, very discreet, to be honest. But now we've been growing. There are more capabilities. The company has grown. The tool has grown to a completely different level. It is being used by more companies. We've growing quite fast. So for me, the future is, it comes down to let's use what we have, right? Future ready is, we have to use, you need to evolve with that maturity framework. If some have seen my previous presentations, is you need to get your integrity system and your system evolving and adding capabilities. So we do have a number of users that do have all of that available, but they don't go the next step in using it. So I think a lot of customers come to me and say, do you have AI? Do you have machine learning? But there's a lot of things that we do today that are very mature and proven history of performance that can be used, right? So for me, the future is let's use what we have. We are looking into and getting IMS ready for the future and getting, the AIs and the augmented reality and giving all the fancy technology around. But at the end, it comes to the users start using and growing existing features. So I would say the IMS is ready, the product is ready, the team is ready. Now it's my evangelist side trying to bring the users to kind of use all the capabilities and grow together to the next level, right?
Okay, well, thank you both for this discussion. Let's move on to some questions that we received. Here's a question that says we had a number of questions on asset management, actually, I see. Non-metallic, civil, PRVs, tanks, vessels, etc. What does the future hold for these kind of types of equipment? Luiz, one for you?
Here we go, me struggling. Me
Yeah,
struggling
you're
with the
back. You're
microphone
back.
again. Yeah, so for me, the integrity management that we have, it does cover multiple types of equipment, right? So in IMS, it's just a different, simply saying with my development side, is just a different object type, right? That will carry different methodologies and different attributes. So when I'm talking about um, a vessel is a mechanical equipment, yeah, it has a mechanical integrity. If you're looking at a safety instrumentation, that's more related to electrical and instrumentation. Um, rotating equipment, civil structures, a lot of concrete, and you do have a lot of equipment coming that are considered as non-metallic. And how we manage that within the same process of barrier management, we need to identify what can go wrong with these materials, right? Um, I think some new materials, we know less about the degradation than we know about carbon steel, for example. But we're going to build that knowledge. And again, we're going to implement barriers, and we're going to implement indicators. We're going to have checklists associated to these different materials, right? So I think we've been working already for quite some time for civil, for example, with glass, wood, concrete, plastic. So they're just different equipment types and different materials, but the methodology and the whole approach as an integrity life cycle remains the same.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. There's also a question on turnarounds, Luiz. What role do you see IMS playing in this area?
Yep. In the turnarounds, I think for us, we're not here to really go into the detailed planning and the resources for turnaround, but we actually deliver is a list of equipment that needs to be inspected and maintained during that turnaround based on the engineering analysis. So IMS will help users to scope the turnaround and say, how much can I reduce the number of equipment to be inspected so I can do this turnaround quicker and reliable? But for me, the value that IMS will add is the capability of collecting data in the field during the turnaround, right? So by the capability of going into the field, opening a checklist, answering it, and moving to the next equipment, approving it, go to the next equipment, that agility to create an inspection report, review and approve in a very short interval, that I think that adds a lot of value during the turnaround, right? As a preparation for the turnaround, like I said, it's about defining the scope, how many equipment need to be there.
Clear. Here's a very generic question on data digitization. Data digitization. What's Sonosco's approach in terms of data digitization? Justin, can you take this one?
On data digital, yeah, sure. Okay, so well, if you think about tooling and onboarding, maybe that's a good way to think about it. So you've got data digitization. You've got a new customer and they want to bring their field information into IMS, or I've got an existing customer and they want to bring on a new discipline or a new asset. So we've got a bunch of tools there. So for the why us customer, the one that wants to come to us, we've got automated creation of cloud instances. So we can spin up instances in the cloud. We can do stuff without you having to have infrastructure. We can run all that for you as a SaaS provider. And we can create identity integration. So if you log in using, I don't know, a WARF or something like that, then we could find an IDP that works with that. So I think a lot of that is quite plug and play. Once you're up and running, we've got a very, very cool importing feature. So if you think about any of the core bits of IMS, which are very data driven, there is a export and import section. You can export a template, you can fill it with the data that you want and import it, and it will put it in the right place, in the right workflow. So that's quite good. Last but not least, I think maybe Lewis's favorite topic, which is dynamic forms. So if you have a specific way of working which is not standard, we can build a dynamic form and help you onboard your process into IMS. Does that answer the question, Marcel?
Yeah, well, it wasn't my question, so I hope it did answer the question, but I'm sure users will reach out if it didn't. Here's another one, actually. What does Synosco have in store for the future for just basic users of IMS? That's a good one. We don't use IMS to the fullest, they say,
Right.
but we do use the basics a lot. Justin?
Yeah, I can take that one. So I think onboarding is always difficult on a new tool, especially one that's very full and very rich like IMS. So we're looking for improved user experience, and we've got a design system that we're working on there, which will help the most basic users do the most basic tasks. That's the same for navigation. So right now, how do I get to here? How do I get to there? I need almost a bit of a training to do that, and then we want to make that super simple. And IMS for field is also another good example. So Luiz already mentioned that. It's probably dynamic forms again. But if you think about, instead of having the full gambit of IMS, which would be probably too much for certain basic users, you break it down to that task that they want to do. You make it available on the mobile device, and they're not worrying about everything that can be done in IMS. They're only looking at their discrete bit of work. So that's a nice way of channeling people to their work.
Thanks. So AI seems to be keeping us busy. Here's two questions on AI. First is can AI predict the condition of assets? And maybe elaborating on that, can we apply AI, robots, drones, to access the condition of underwater subsea structures of an oil platform? If this can replace the need for a jackup, barge, or human divers, and it can decrease the inspection costs. So who wants to start on this one? AI, Luiz?
Yeah, I can throw something here. We work a lot with the oil and gas, right? With a very high risk, or let's say very high consequences if things turn sour. And we've seen that each technology that is introduced in that area, right, of high risk assets, they need to be proven, they need to be analyzed, they need to be studied, they need to be broken down to say, is that the true? Are we getting value out of these? And we see the AI is harder to validate, right? It's harder to be verified. I say yes, it will help a lot, and it's already helping. Like the example I mentioned, we call the Air 3D project. There's an observation project where you scan photos and get anomalies by predicting corrosion rate. But today they are supporting the overall strategy. They're not driving that strategy. We don't use, and I don't see in the near future the AI and going into AI and say, what is my strategy? And users will follow that strategy blindly. They will take that into account to do something, but they will not. This will not be driven by AI. It will be driven by a qualified, experienced professional that will take that AI output as an input for his own judgment, for his own decision process. When you're looking at robots and drones, they are more realistic, right? So they are robots and drones that can do all sorts of underwater, ROVs in general, remotely operated vehicles. It's already a reality. But how are we going to process that data to improve a decision process, like replace a jackup part, or reduce inspection costs. I think that might take a while, but the use of it will continue to grow, right, Justin? You want to add something?
No, I think you're spot on there. It's like I say to my kids, you can use ChatGPT to help you start your homework, but I don't want you to use it to write it. So I think it's a great starter for 10. It's pulling together information that maybe you could miss, but that human judgment on something is very difficult to replace. And I think rather than replacing people, it's going to open up that time to bring more value, plan better, have greater structure around it. So AI, I see more of it as an accelerator rather than a replacer. But I might be wrong.
Clear. And this is already there in the tool, right? The analysis of imaging, and so that could be applied to subsea structures as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Clear. Okay, thanks for that. Now here's a question that I don't think is really related to tooling, but it's probably close to your heart, Luiz. So here goes. How to deal with management that does not completely support asset integrity?
Yeah, we were chatting here on the background of that. If management doesn't see the value of an integrity management, you can just make a calculation of how much it costs an integrity fail, right? It's going to be a loss of primary containment. And they might I like to compare, investing in IMS is just take the cost of one leak, how much it cost in terms of production loss, replacement, the cost of the lives. I think I always bring it back, Bhopal, the worst examples out there, right? You can see Bhopal, even Chernobyl in a way. It is related to the integrity and the control and the process. There's a deep water horizon. Yeah, there's a number of examples that we can bring. I don't want to be catastrophic here, but if a management say I don't want to invest in integrity can bring down companies, right? So there's a lot of examples in there that even Union Carbide in Bhopal has been tainted forever for that accident.
Yeah.
That's not to be catastrophic, but think about the cost of failure, how much it costs, and how much I should invest to prevent that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing the smoke from the Bunford fire from London. So, that's a tank that had an overspill due to failure in monitoring systems, for example. And there's not what Luiz just said there. You think about it, it's not just the cost of the unplanned shutdown, but humongous fines that are associated. Reputation risk goes, to the floor, and it also defeats one of the core principles of the life-saving rules that we see in the oil and gas industry, which is we want everyone to go home happy and unharmed. So it's core principles, actually.
Yeah, clear. So guys, we're done with our time for today. I still have some questions left, but I assure all the viewers that we will get back to these questions offline on the individuals. I need to thank you all for this informative discussion on the future of IMS and asset integrity in general. For all the future viewers watching, and thank you for your time, obviously. Please take note that there will be a webinar. This webinar will soon be available as a download from our website. And then before we go, I would like to mention that we're already planning the next IMS webinar. It will be in January. We will reach out to you with the exact date. So for now, that leaves me with saying goodbye. Have a great holidays and hope to see you in the new year. Thank you all. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.